My name is Lena, and I used to think family was everything. Growing up, I was the kid who believed in Sunday dinners, holiday traditions, and the kind of unconditional love that only parents can give. My mom, Elaine Imam, and my dad, Dumkin, were the center of that world. They weren't perfect, nobody is, but they were my parents. Mom with her warm hugs and homemade apple pies. Dad with his corny jokes and knack for fixing anything broken. They were the grandparents who spoiled my kids rotten, always showing up with toys or sneaking them extra cookies. I thought that's what love looked like. But love can blind you. It can make you miss the cracks in the foundation until the whole house comes crashing down. This story starts 3 years ago in the summer of 2022, when I was 36, married to my high school sweetheart, Mark, and raising our three kids, Sophie, who was 10, Ethan, 8, and little Mia, just 5. We lived in a small town in upstate New York, close enough to the Canadian border that a quick trip to Montreal was no big deal. Life was good. Not perfect, but good. Mark worked as a mechanic, I was a part-time bookkeeper, and we were saving up for a family vacation. That summer, my parents called with an idea. "Lena, let's do a big family reunion," Mom said over the phone, her voice bright and excited. "Your cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone's coming to our place in Ontario. Bring the kids, make it a road trip." I love the idea. The kids hadn't seen their Canadian cousins in years, and Mark and I could use a break from the daily grind. Plus, I'd always been close to my family, or so I thought. My parents had moved to Canada a few years earlier, just across the border, to retire near my mom's sister. They'd bought a little house, and we visited when we could. The reunion sounded like the perfect chance to make memories with the kids. So we planned it. Mark took a week off work. We packed the SUV with snacks, games, and enough kid gear to survive a zombie apocalypse, and we hit the road. My parents had one request: bring a red duffel bag they'd left at our house during their last visit. "It's just some old stuff we need," Dad said casually. "Clothes, toiletries, nothing fancy. Just toss it in the trunk." I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? They were my parents. I trusted them. The bag was already at our house, tucked in the garage from their last visit. I figured it was just their usual clutter. Mom was notorious for overpacking. The morning we left, the kids were buzzing with excitement. Sophie was singing along to her playlist. Ethan was arguing about who got the window seat, and Mia was clutching her favorite stuffed bunny, asking if Canada had real castles. Mark and I laughed, sipping coffee from our travel mugs, feeling like we were doing this parenting thing right. The sun was shining, the road stretched out ahead, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. But perfection is fragile, and sometimes the people you trust most are the ones holding the match that burns it all down. We were about 20 minutes from the border when Mark's demeanor changed. He'd been joking with the kids, teasing Ethan about his obsession with Pokemon cards, when he suddenly went quiet. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, and I noticed a bead of sweat on his forehead. "Lena," he said, his voice low, urgent. "Turn around, now." I stared at him, confused. "What? Why? We're almost there." He didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on the road, but I could see the panic in them. "Just do it. Take the next exit." "Mark, what's going on?" My heart started pounding. The kids were still chattering in the back, oblivious, but I could feel the air in the car shift. "Trust me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Please." I didn't argue. I trusted Mark with my life. We'd been together since we were 16, through every high and low. College, miscarriages, late-night diaper changes. If he was this shaken, something was wrong. I took the next exit, pulling off the highway onto a quiet access road lined with trees. The kids started whining, asking why we were stopping, but Mark snapped, "Quiet, guys, just for a minute." That's when my stomach twisted. Mark never raised his voice at the kids. He got out of the car and motioned for me to follow. I told the kids to stay put, handed Sophie my phone to keep them distracted, and stepped out. Mark was already at the back of the SUV, the hatch open, staring at the red duffel bag. "Lena," he said, his voice shaking. "Come here." I walked over, my legs feeling like lead. He unzipped the powin, and my world stopped. Inside, tucked into a child's toiletry bag with a cartoon unicorn on it, were several plastic packets. They were sealed tight, filled with a white powder. My heart dropped into my stomach. "Mark, what is that?" I whispered, even though I already knew. "It's not vitamins," he said, his voice grim. "Lena, this is serious. Life-ruining serious." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My parents had asked us to carry this bag across the border. With our kids in the car, they'd used us, to their own grandchildren, as drug mules. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the bag into the ditch. But Mark grabbed my arm, grounding me. "We need to stay calm," he said, "for the kids. We're not crossing that border. We're going home." The drive back was a blur. The kids were confused, asking why we weren't going to the reunion, but I couldn't form words. Mark kept his hand on mine, steadying me while my mind raced. How could they do this? How could they risk our lives, our kids' lives, for what? Money? Greed? When we got home, Mark carried the duffel bag to my parents' doorstep an hour away. We didn't knock. We didn't call. We left it there, a silent message. "We know what you did." That night, I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, replaying every moment of my life with my parents. The hugs, the holidays, the times they'd babysat the kids. Was it all a lie? Had they always been this reckless, this selfish, and I'd just been too blind to see it? Mark sat beside me, his arm around my shoulders. "What do we do now?" he asked. I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I knew one thing. I was done trusting them. The next morning, I called my parents, and I didn't want to hear their excuses, but I needed to know why. Mom answered, her voice cheerful, like nothing had happened. "Lena, honey, why didn't you make it to the reunion? We were so worried." "Cut the crap, Mom," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "We found the bag, the drugs. How could you do that to us, to your own grandkids?" There was a long silence. Then she laughed, a nervous, brittle sound. "Oh, Lena, you're being dramatic. It was just a little favor. Nothing would have happened. You're blowing this out of proportion." "A favor?" I shouted. "You used us as drug mules. You put my kids in danger." Dad got on the phone, his tone gruff. "Lena, calm down. We didn't have a choice. We owed some people money. It was a one-time thing. You're fine, aren't you?" I hung up. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone. They didn't even apologize. They didn't care. That was the moment I cut them off. No more calls, no more visits, no more grandma and grandpa moments. I blocked their numbers, deleted their emails, and told the kids they wouldn't be seeing them for a while. Sophie, my oldest, kept asking why, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. How do you tell a 10-year-old that her grandparents risked her life for a quick buck? For a few weeks, I thought that was the end of it. We'd go on with our lives, and they'd stay in theirs. But my parents weren't done crossing lines. One afternoon, I got a call from Sophie's school. My heart stopped when the principal said, "Mrs. Carter, your parents picked up Sophie, Ethan, and Mia about an hour ago. They said it was authorized." I felt the blood drain from my face. "They're not authorized," I said, my voice shaking. "Where are they?" The principal stammered, clearly panicked. "They said it was an emergency. They had ID, and the kids knew them, so we thought—" I didn't wait for her to finish. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to my parents' house, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. When I got there, I found my kids in their living room, surrounded by new toys and piles of candy. Mom was braiding Sophie's hair, and Dad was showing Ethan a model airplane. Mia was curled up on the couch, clutching her bunny, looking confused. "Lena," Mom said, smiling like nothing was wrong, "we just wanted to see the kids. You've been so distant lately." "Get away from them," I said, my voice low and dangerous. I scooped Mia up and grabbed Sophie and Ethan's hands. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to pretend you're good people." Dad stood up, his face red. "You're overreacting, Lena. We're their grandparents. We have rights." "Rights?" I snapped. "You lost those when you tried to use us as drug runners. Stay away from my family." I took the kids and left, their confused questions breaking my heart. That night, I sat down with Mark and said the words I'd been dreading. We need to move. He didn't hesitate. Okay, where? Anywhere but here, I said. Somewhere they can't find us. Within weeks, we'd packed up our lives and moved to North Carolina. New home, new school, new jobs. We didn't tell anyone where we were going, not my parents, not my sister, Rachel, not even our closest friends. We started over, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. But the story doesn't end there, because revenge, real revenge, takes time. And my parents were about to learn that actions have consequences. Months passed in our new life. The kids adjusted into their new school. Mark found a job at a local garage, and I started working remotely for a small accounting firm. We were healing slowly but surely. The nightmares about border patrols and flashing lights started to fade. But I couldn't shake the anger, the betrayal, the way my parents had looked at me like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Then one evening, I got an email from my sister Rachel. She tracked down my new email address through an old mutual friend. The subject line read, "Please, Lena, we need to talk." I almost deleted it. Rachel and I had never been close. She was 5 years younger, always wrapped up in her own world. But something made me open it. "Lena," she wrote, "I know you're mad at Mom and but they're in trouble. They got caught trying to smuggle drugs across the border. They're in jail, and they're facing serious time. I know what they did to you was awful, but they're our parents. Please help. They're saying it was a setup, that someone tipped off the border patrol. I'm begging you to come back." I stared at the screen, my heart racing. A setup? No, it wasn't a setup. It was karma. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I called Mark into the room and showed him the email. He read it, his jaw tight, and then looked at me. "You didn't tip anyone off, did you?" I shook my head. "No, but I'm not surprised. They didn't stop after us. They kept going, and now they're paying for it." The truth was I hadn't done anything to tip off the authorities. I didn't need to. My parents had been reckless, sloppy, and arrogant. They tried to use us as mules because they thought we'd never suspect them. But when we didn't show up at the border, they must have panicked. They probably tried to make the run themselves, thinking they could outsmart everyone. They were wrong. A few days later, I did some digging online. Local news articles confirmed it. Don and Elaine Harper, a retired couple from Ontario, had been arrested at the border with a significant quantity of illegal substances hidden in their car. The reports didn't mention us, thank God, but they described the bust in detail. K-9 units, routine checks, a tip from an anonymous source. My parents had been caught red-handed, and they were facing 4 years each in prison. Rachel's email had asked for help, but I wasn't going to give it. I typed a short reply. "I did show up once. I'm not doing it again." That was my revenge. Not a dramatic confrontation, not a public shaming, but a quiet, deliberate choice to let them face the consequences of their actions. They'd gambled with our lives, and they'd lost. It's been 2 years since that email, and I haven't spoken to my parents since. Rachel tried to reach out a few more times, but I kept my distance. She wasn't part of their scheme as far as I know, but I couldn't risk letting anyone from that old life back in. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The kids are thriving now. Sophie's in middle school, playing soccer and dreaming of being a veterinarian. Ethan's obsessed with coding, building little apps on his tablet. Mia's in first grade, still carrying that same stuffed bunny everywhere. Mark and I are stronger than ever, bonded by what we went through, by the choice we made to protect our family. Sometimes late at night I think about my parents. I wonder if they're sorry, if they lie awake in their cells regretting what they did. But then I remember the way they laughed it off, the way they tried to manipulate my kids with toys and candy. And I know I made the right choice. Peace isn't quiet by accident. It's earned. It's built on the choices you make, the lines you draw, the people you protect. I chose my family, Mark, Sophie, Ethan, Mia. I chose safety. I chose better. So did I go too far or not far enough? I'll let you decide.